Hello! So today we're going to be looking at the Cessna 408 Sky Courier in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I started writing up a functional procedure to start this up from cold and dark this morning. And the reason for this video is the place I started was the checklist within the aircraft. So if we press Tab, which pulls up the EFB in 2024, and you click on the aircraft icon and you go to the checklists, you can see it does have some checklists built into the aircraft, and I thought that's great. I can use that as my starting point, and this is going to be an easy, quick job. Except then I realised there were lots and lots of things missing from the checklists, and things that would actually cause you to not be able to start the aeroplane up. So here we are. So I've written my own procedure up, a functional procedure. It doesn't include many of the checks that a real crew would perform to make sure all of the hardware is operating, but of the kit that's inside the aircraft, the procedure I'm going to follow will at least make sure that the aircraft is up and running and you've done things in more or less the right order. So I have written this up. It's available as a download from my shop on the internet, so if you look in the notes of the video you'll see a link, and I'll also pin a comment on the video as well with a link through to that procedure, and so you can follow the same procedure I have written up. Okay, so first things first, we need to walk around the aircraft. So we're going to use the walk around mode. We're going to come over to the nose and remove the chocks and the covers, which also removes the engines, by the way, if you remove the covers here. But we also have some covers on the pitot tubes. So let's go and remove that one, and that should do both wings at the same time. So if we go and have a look around, we should find out that there are no more covers or anything to remove, which is great. So then we can wander back round to the door and we can open it, and that will switch views automatically. We are now inside the aeroplane. So I'm going to do some of this with keyboard shortcuts and some of it without. So I think for this aircraft, because it doesn't have an overhead panel, we can get away with just looking around inside and using my controls. So I've got an Airbus Thrustmaster controller. I have mapped the right stick to control the propellers. I have mapped the left stick to control both of the throttles at once. Okay, and I've also got it to go into reverse. To do that, I had to map the 0 to 100% throttle axis across the throttles onto my left stick and reverse the axis. And that solved that for me. I will control the fuel condition levers with my mouse. Okay, so let's go and work through getting the airplane up and running. So first things first, you're going to go and turn the battery on, which means moving the battery switch over to OPS, or I think it means operations. So if you roll the mouse up, it moves the switch to the right. And you can hear the airplane booting up around us. So then we're going to go and put the emergency lights to armed, or check that they are, and you can see they're already armed down here. Then on the central pedestal we're going to go and put the nav lights on. So none of this is in the checklist, but typically you go and put the nav lights on when you're getting the airplane ready for flight, so the crew around know there's somebody in it tinkering with the airplane basically. Okay, so then we're going to prepare to start the engines. So the first thing we're going to do there is advance the propeller levers all the way forwards. Okay, then we're going to go to that beacon light, or nav beacon light, and we're going to advance it to beacon, which tells anybody outside we're about to start the engines. So, and then we get a whole sequence of switches. Now, I don't know how accurate this is going to be to the real airplane, but you have to do this in the simulator, okay? So we're going to go and arm. We're going to do the right engine first. We're going to arm ignition on the right engine. Then we're going to turn a boost on for the right engine, and then we're going to start the right engine. And you will see the NG will start to increase. When it gets past 12%, we will jump across the cockpit and advance the fuel condition lever. There it goes. So we'll jump across and we advance the fuel condition lever. If we go and watch outside, we can actually see the propellers start to whiz round. You can see heat pouring out of the exhausts. So looking back inside, we're waiting for the NG to get above 50. When it gets above 50, notice there's an alarm. We can turn the starter off, and the boost can go back to norm, away from on. Okay, so that's basically it for the right engine. So same deal for the left engine. We go and turn on the auto ignition, then boost for the left engine, and then start the left engine. And you'll see the NG come up. If we're waiting for it to get past 12, 11, 12, then we advance the fuel condition lever to run, and it continues on round, and we can go and look outside and watch that happening. So you can see it whizzing around over there and accelerating. So if we come back inside, when NG gets past 50%, we'll hear the alarm. We can turn the starter off for the left engine and turn boost off on the left engine, and we can clear the caution. Okay, so it's now complaining that we haven't got the generators on. So the next thing we do is go over to the electrical section and we put the generators for left and right to norm. And it's now looking, if you look at the eCam screen, you can see basically the laundry list of things to go and do. But we need to go and put auto feather on as well. So auto feather is over here. We're going to go and arm it. We're going to calibrate the altimeters while we're at it. So we're going to press comma on the keyboard, which will calibrate the altimeter. And we've got the bleed air as well to go and deal with. So over on the right hand side of the cockpit, you've got the two switches over here. Okay, so you can generally use this as your guide. You can ignore external power. As soon as we taxi away from where we are, the external power light will go out automatically. Okay, so at this point we could go and program our flight plan, so we can go and turn on the navigation display and go and do whatever we need to do. So I'm not going to go into programming a flight plan too much today. Obviously this is a G1000 setup with 3 screens, so you can, on the navigation display, you can go into flight plan. The one trick is you have to press both left and right mouse buttons down to get the focus into the FMS. I don't know why they've done that, but they have. And from then on, it's the same as normal. So the outer ring of the FMS knob moves the focus. The inner ring will bring up the dialogues. So we could go and put in KFHR, I think it is, isn't it, for Friday Harbour. There we go, KFHR, press enter. We won't choose a runway, and say we were going down to, where should we choose? Choose somewhere at random. Have we got LittleNavMap running? Yes, we have. So we're at Friday Harbour. Say we were going to go over to Anacortes, which is 74 Sierra. So if we were to go and click on the little keyboard, again, this isn't really the focus of this, but we'll just put something in. There's Anacortes, so then we can press enter and enter again, and we got our basic route. Yeah, so from Friday Harbour, and we've got, notice on this display, I've most recently had it on aircraft facing. Normally it's north facing. If you want to change that, you can go into map settings, and you can come down to the orientation, and you could put north up and press enter, and it looks much more like you might imagine it should look, and then you can press clear to come back out of there. Okay, anyway, you can play games with programming that in, and then obviously you've got the modes on the primary flight display that you can go look at. So you've got the configuration of the screen, you've got PFD options for wind and DME if you were doing some VOR navigation maybe, and you've got the transponder details to go and plug in if you want to. But I'm not going to go into too much of that today. So we're now going to prepare to taxi. If we were taking off from loose ground, we might want to put the inertial separators on, so you can do that here if you want to. We don't need to here where we are today. We're going to go and put the taxi light on now. So we'll just advance this switch using the mouse wheel through to its middle setting, which is taxi lights. We can go and set the flaps for takeoff at this point if we want. So I just use my controls to do that, and it moved the flaps to flaps 1. And we've got the pitot heat. We'll go and do that once we've taxied out. So I'll pop the yoke back on for the moment and come off the parking brake and go hard left. Notice there's a small amount of positive thrust, so we're about to chop the ground crew up. We won't worry too much about him. Apologies. So we're just going to taxi out to the runway briefly, just to show you what we can do. So we're going to get lined up and then configure the aircraft for flight. So all of this is in the procedure I've written up, with all of the keyboard shortcut keys to take you around the cockpit. So if you're more comfortable doing that rather than scrolling around with the mouse, you can. But obviously once you've done it once or twice, you become familiar with where everything is anyway. So we'll just straighten ourselves up, put ourselves back on the parking brake. So what do we do once we are lined up? We're going to go and put the pitot heat on, which is the PS heat switch there. We're going to go and put the landing lights on. So over here on the list of external lights, we're going to advance that switch one further. We're going to put the anti-collision lights on. And then we are going to advance the condition levers all the way forwards now. And you will see the power pickup on the engines, and the temperatures will move around and the RPMs will move around. So then if we come off the parking brake now, I'll press shift and space to put my view back centered. So all you have to do now is come off the parking brake.
Papa Delta traffic is 4 o'clock 2 miles at 3,000 feet generic. Report them in sight.
And we're off to the races.
Generic 4 Papa Delta traffic in sight.
So that was it. It's as easy as that to get this airplane up and running. Obviously once you're in flight you can cut the RPM back and you can cut the throttle back. So this airplane will quite easily fly at 50% throttle and 50% RPM of the propellers, and it will level out to around about 140, 150 knots doing that. And so you can fly around all day without stressing it at all. It's a lovely aeroplane. Whether that's realistic, again, I don't know. It's a Carenado aeroplane, so it's aimed at the mass market, but it does give you all of these switches and things to go play with in the aeroplane. So it's worth knowing, you know, at least a little bit about how to start it from cold and dark, I think. So there you go. I'm going to leave it there. Hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.